Welcome back. Well, you have seen it in the race for the White House and in the House of Representatives, where so far they cannot choose a new leader. Republicans are divided. Consensus is elusive. Well, my guest has an idea as to what's going on there. He is Henry Olsen, Senior Fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center and co-author of an upcoming book called The Four Faces of the Republican Party. Henry, thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me.
You know, conventional wisdom says there's two kinds of Republicans. You're conservative, and then you're even more conservative. You say that's too simplistic.
It is way too simplistic. You know, there are really four kinds of Republicans. There's the strong conservative who votes on social issues. There's the strong conservative who votes on economic issues. There's the moderates, and it sounds like there aren't a whole lot of them, but there's actually about 30% of the party are still call themselves moderates, and then the rest are kind of like the John Boehner conservatives. They're the people who are conservative but not extreme, and together the moderates and the John Boehner conservatives are over half the party.
And they're the ones you think usually influence the nominee, but this year seems different. I mean, the top three Republican candidates are all non-establishment, non-experienced politicians. How does that fit into your
I think
situation?
what's going to happen is the closer we get to election and the closer we get to people actually casting votes, they're going to start turning back to type.
That's what everybody's been saying since the summer started, was that, that sooner or later it was going to turn back, and it hasn't yet.
No, it hasn't yet. Donald Trump throws something new into the race because what he's doing is creating a new coalition of people who without college degrees and younger, and breaking the old 30-year rules in the Republican Party. But again, we'll see whether or not those voters stick with him when it actually stops being I'm casting a protest and starts being this guy's going in the White House.
All right, let's talk about the most important block of the party, which you say is not the Tea Party, as you mentioned.
Right.
It's what you call the somewhat conservatives.
That's right. Those are people who, when they get asked, are you conservative or are you very conservative, they'll say they're somewhat conservative. They're the single largest group in the Republican Party. They're the people who like John Boehner. They're the people who like Mitch McConnell. They are equally distributed throughout the party and throughout the states in the country. And in each of the last four nominating elections, they're the only ones to always back the winner.
And so why then does it seem like their influence has waned so much?
Well, because in the House of Representatives, what happens is you have a lot of people from safe Republican districts where the number of very conservatives is larger and the number of moderates is smaller. So they can go toe-to-toe with the Boehner faction in the House of Representatives. But in the Senate, what you see is a lot more people who are much more like Mitch McConnell and a lot less like Ted Cruz. And in the Senate, you see less of an influence. And I think in the presidential campaign, you'll eventually see that they are the dominant faction.
I want to talk about the smallest faction of the party, the people you described as the secular conservatives who are conservative on fiscal issues, but that's about it. They would be almost considered what they call rhinos, right? Republicans in name only.
A lot of them would think of themselves more as soft libertarians, the sort of people who don't care a lot about social issues but care a lot about smaller government. They're the smallest faction. They're the group that would love to see Rand Paul nominated. They're the group that Rand Paul's getting 4% in the polls. They're the group that would have liked to have seen Steve Forbes nominated 15 years ago. He got 10% in the polls. They're very active, they're wealthy, and they're very small.
So how does this very disparate group of people, some of whom are very angry at the others in the Republican Party, how are they going to come together?
Well, usually what happens is they come together on somebody who can at least satisfy 3 out of the 4 factions. They're somebody who's conservative enough so that the right wing doesn't bolt, but not so extreme so that the center of the party doesn't grumble and stay
Right wing wants somebody seriously conservative this time around. At least that's what they say.
They do. And I think what you're going to find is you're going to find somebody from the center who is more right-wing than, say, a Romney or a Dole or a McCain was. But eventually, you're going to find somebody who is more conservative on policy, but less angry than the Ted Cruz or the Mike Huckabee types.
We will see how it turns out, but we will keep your theory in mind. Henry Olsen, the book is called The Four Faces of the Republican Party. Thanks so much for talking with us.
Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate it. All right, well, coming up on politics, Donald Trump says Democrats can't even throw a good debate. And someone asked Rand Paul, are you still running for president? Paul's answer probably didn't win him any new votes. Stay with us.